Welcome to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. No politics, no drama, no arguing. Just two guys talking sports. I'm your host, JJ Peters. My co-host is Michael Menser. Michael is the host of the YouTube gaming channel Angry Turtles. Go check him out on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, and leave a like. He is not here today, but he will join us sometime in February. Today on the podcast, we'll talk about the Jags hire Urban Meyer as head coach. James Harden gets dealt to Brooklyn, NFL Divisional playoff preview, and much more. And now, our poll question. You can vote on Instagram and Facebook at Sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at SportsTownPod. The question was, how well will James Harden fit in with the Nets? And I gave you the option of either great or terrible, and overwhelmingly, you guys said terrible. Thanks again for voting. You can vote on Instagram and Facebook at Sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at SportsTownPod. Let's get a sports update. The Denver Broncos have hired longtime assistant general manager with the Vikings, George Patton. Patton was under Rick Spellman for 13 seasons. He will replace legend quarterback John Elway as the GM. Elway stepped down on January 4th, but will still remain the team's president of football operations. However, Patton will have full control over the team's roster, free agency signings, and draft picks. Denver has not played the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl in 2015. Denver's new GM, Patton, said the Broncos are a sleeping giant in the league and thanked the Vikings organization for 13 wonderful years in Minnesota. The New York Jets have hired 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their next head coach. Saleh will be the Jets' 20th head coach in franchise history. He has signed a 5-year deal according to multiple reports. Saleh also interviewed with the Lions, Chargers, Falcons, and Jaguars for their head coaching vacancies. The new Jets head coach will bring 49ers passing game coordinator Mike LaFleur as the offensive coordinator with the Jets. Mike LaFleur is the younger brother of Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. Robert Saleh is also the first Muslim head coach in NFL history. When he took over as defensive coordinator for San Francisco in 2017, the defense was one of the worst in the league. The last 2 seasons, they've been ranked 2nd and 5th, respectively. He is from Michigan and will replace Adam Gase, who was 9-23 in 2 seasons with the Jets. Wizards guard Russell Westbrook could be out for at least 3 to 4 weeks with a quad injury. It was first reported by Quentin Mayo of NBC Sports Washington. The former MVP was playing great, but the team was struggling and are 3-8 currently. The injury was first reported to be at least 1 week, but now they have confirmed it will be at least 3 to 4 weeks. He has averaged 19 points per game, 11 assists per game, and 9.7 rebounds per game. He was traded from Washington to Houston before the season began. The first reported by NFL Network's Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, the Carolina Panthers hire Scotty Fitterer, the former VP of the Seahawks, as GM. The Carolina Panthers fired longtime GM Marty Herney after Week 15 of the 2020 season. Fitterer has been with the Seahawks since 2001 as a scout. He worked his way up the chain and was a huge part in the Seahawks Super Bowl championship team in 2013. The former VP of the Seahawks worked closely with Seattle's GM John Snyder the last few years. Currently, the deal has not been reported just yet. Alabama has hired Bill O'Brien as their next offensive coordinator. He will replace Steve Sarkisian, who left Alabama to become the next head coach of Texas. O'Brien was the former coach of the Houston Texans in the NFL. He also was the coach at Penn State and offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots from 2007 to 2011. The Texans started 0-4 because of all the questionable trades O'Brien made. Houston decided to let him go in October. According to multiple sources, O'Brien was with Alabama last week as the Crimson Tide were preparing for the Buckeyes in the college football playoff championship game. Many of the offense coordinators Alabama have had success that include Lane Kiffin, Brian Dable, and now Steve Sarkisian. The Detroit Lions have hired Brad Holmes as their new general manager. Holmes was the former Los Angeles Rams college scouting director. The news was first reported by NFL Network's Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. Holmes is a former player and in 2003 started as a public relations intern. He eventually moved to the head scouting department in 2013. He is 41 and will be one of the youngest GMs in the National Football League. The Rams will receive a second and third round compensatory third-round draft pick for the next 2 seasons. It is a new rule made by the NFL that if a team hires a minority head coach or GM, the team will receive some type of draft pick. The Atlanta Falcons have hired Titans offensive coordinator Arthur Smith as their next head coach. Smith is 38 and served as the offensive coordinator for the Titans the last 2 seasons. Tennessee has had the second best rushing offense in the league last season, and all-pro running back Derrick Henry rushed for over 2,000 yards. He became just the 9th player in the league to do so. The Titans offensive coordinator canceled his meetings with Detroit so that he could fly up to Atlanta to have another meeting with the Falcons. He also interviewed with the Lions, Jaguars, Jets, and Eagles. When the Titans were eliminated from the playoffs, he was free to interview with teams that needed a coach. It was first reported by the news was first reported by by NFL media and Hosina Anderson. Pitbull is now a NASCAR owner. He will be a part owner for Trackhouse Racing. Trackhouse Racing, other co-owner is Justin Marks. Daniel Suarez is the team's driver. Suarez is the only Mexican-born driver in the Cup Series of NASCAR. He drives the number 99 Chevrolet Camaro. The 40-year-old rapper will be at the inaugural race of the 2021 season, the Daytona 500, on February 14th. Pitbull started being a fan of NASCAR since the days of Thunder back in 1990. He is the second biggest celebrity to own a NASCAR Cup team, joining six-time NBA champion Michael Jordan, who owns 23XI Racing. The second tournament of the 2021 golf calendar year is on. The Sony Open, played in Hawaii, will be the second event hosted by the PGA Tour this year. Last week, Harris English captured the Tournament of Champions with a score of 25 under par. There are some big names that are participating, like Colin Morikawa, Zach Johnson, Cameron Smith, Harris English, Billy Horschel, Keegan Bradley, Sergio Garcia, Mark Leishman, and the former FedEx Cup winner Brent Snedeker. The leaderboard for day 2 is Stuart Sink, Webb Simpson, Charlie Hoffman, Colin Morikawa, Mark Leishman, Hideki Matsuyama, and Joaquin Niemann. Now remember, this recording of the podcast was before the end of round 2. The first question for today is, do I like Stuart Sink's chances? Well, I mean, he's currently 10 under par. He's been playing well. I do like his chances to be somewhere around the top 5 or top 10, but I don't certainly like his chances to win. Colin Morikawa has kind of came back, I feel like, from the dead. He wasn't playing very good after he won the PGA Championship. So I feel like he could be a guy that sneaks up. Webb Simpson, of course, is always good. He's won a few majors. So I don't necessarily like Stuart Sink's chances after day 2. Who has been playing well that you could see winning the tournament? I thought Daniel Berger was playing solid, but it feels like everybody's having a very high score. So I would assume that he's probably not going to win it unless he just goes ham the next 2 days or the next 2 rounds. So I'm going to say someone around the top 5 does end up winning this. And I'll just say I like Colin Morikawa, even though he's been struggling. I originally thought Daniel Berger was going to win it, but of course Berger might be a little too far right now. So I think Colin Morikawa is going to win. I probably would be completely wrong, but I'm just assuming he's going to win it because he's been playing well. Who has been the most disappointing? I wouldn't really say anybody was disappointing. I mean, if you really look at it, all these guys are still playing well. I think everybody after round 1 still had or was under par, was anywhere, I think was lower than 71. So that's still pretty good. So I wouldn't say there was really anybody disappointing. Like I said, now that like Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, they're not golfing this weekend. So I really can't say, or Rory McIlroy, I can't really say anybody's been disappointing in this tournament. The dark horse of the tournament. Well, there's a lot, and it's really hard to assume. Originally, I thought Cameron Smith would be the dark horse, and I think he still is, but I think he's kind of still flirting around the top 10. So I'm going to stick with Cameron Smith, but everybody kind of knows about Cameron Smith now after playing so well in the Masters and being good the last few days. And last but not least, prediction on who wins the event. I'm going to still stick with Colin Morikawa. I mean, Mark Leishman's pretty great. Colin Morikawa. You can't forget about Hideki Matsuyama. Now, Harris English won the tournament last week, so maybe he comes away with another one. But I'm just going to go ahead with Colin Morikawa just because he's so good. And when he's on, he's one of the better golfers in the world. I believe he's ranked 6th currently. So I'm going to stick with Colin Morikawa. Let's get an update on some college basketball scores from Wednesday and Thursday. All the games will be from the top 25. College basketball is heating up, so we will be talking about it more in the coming weeks. We had some big games over the last 2 days, so here we go. We started in Texas versus Texas Tech. Another upset happened this week in college hoops. 15th ranked Texas Tech took down their 4th ranked rival, Texas, 79-77. Mac McClung had a huge three-pointer late in the game, scored 22 points in the win and 2 assists. Kevin McCullough led the way with 8 rebounds. On Texas's side, Andrew Jones finished with 20 points. Greg Brown dropped 9 rebounds, and Courtney Ramey came away with 4 assists. Texas Tech is now 11-3 after the win. Texas is 2-2 and has their first loss in the Big 12 this season. Next, we have Louisville versus Wake Forest. The Cardinals are come away with another win this season. The 16th-ranked Cards beat the Demon Deacons on Wednesday night, 76-64. Carlick Jones dropped 23 points in a career high in the second half, along with a crazy shot in the second half. He is hopeful for a Naismith and Wooden Player of the Year, or at least a nomination. Samuel Williamson had 11 rebounds, and David Johnson finished with 9 dimes. Davion Williamson had 19 points and 4 assists in the loss. Isaiah Mucius came away with 8 rebounds. Louisville is now 9-1 after the win and will likely move up in the rankings. Wake Forest now drops to 3-4 on the season. Virginia versus Notre Dame. Number 18th ranked Virginia got past the Fighting Irish 80-68, led by Jay Huff's 18 points. The Cavaliers are now 8-2 after the win. Notre Dame falls to 3-8 on the season. Sam Hauser finished with 9 rebounds, and K.I. Clark came away with 6 assists. For Notre Dame, Carmack Ryan dropped 16 points. Nate Lashiski had 8 boards, and Trey Wirtz finished with 4 assists. With the win, Virginia is now second place in the ACC standings. Ohio State versus Northwestern. The 21st ranked Ohio State got by Northwestern 81-71 on Wednesday night. The Buckeyes got their 10th win of the season. The Wildcats now fall to 6-5. Dwayne Washington had 23 points and 6 assists in the win. E.J. Little led the way for Ohio State with 10 boards. For Northwestern, Chase Udgees dropped 25 points. Miller Kopp had 9 rebounds, and Boo Buie dropped 5 assists. Ohio State avoided another possible comeback from Northwestern. Last but not least, Pepperdine versus Gonzaga. Gonzaga continues to show fans why they are ranked number 1 in college hoops. The Bulldogs got past Pepperdine 95-70. Gonzaga now has 17 straight wins. That's dating all the way back to last season. Corey Kispert dropped 23 points in the win. Anton Watson had 10 rebounds, and Drew Timey finished with 4 assists. For the Waves, which is the mascot of Pepperdine, Kessler Edwards had 14 points to lead the way for Pepperdine. Kobe Ross had 7 assists in the loss. Pepperdine now falls to 4-6 on the year. The second round of the NFL Divisional Playoffs starts this Saturday. We will take a look at the upcoming schedule and give you a preview of all the games this weekend. Let's start up in Green Bay, where the Packers hope to make their second straight NFC Championship game. Now remember, the NFC playoffs run through Lambeau Field, so the Packers have a huge advantage in the NFC. Can the Rams stop the Packers offense led by Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams? And don't forget about Aaron Jones, who also rushed for over 1,000 yards this weekend. And even if you shut down Aaron Jones, they have other running backs like A.J. Dillon and Jamal Williams, which I think both of them are playing in the game. The Rams, however, have good news because Aaron Donald, the 2-time defensive player in the year and maybe even 3-time very soon, is going to be playing after tearing his rib cartilage in a win versus the Seahawks. Jared Goff is going to get the start after not starting the last 2 weeks because of his thumb injury. And on top of that, the Rams were able to knock off the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle by scoring 30 points with a mediocre offense. Well, the Packers' defense isn't really that great, and the Rams have a chance to knock off the Packers in Green Bay, which is going to be very hard to do. They are very big underdogs, but we'll see what happens. Rams versus Packers. That game, by the way, is on Fox at 3:30 p.m. At 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Ravens versus Bills. This game is on NBC at 8:15 p.m. Eastern, where Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens hope to get their second win and go on to the AFC Championship game. They had a great win against the Titans last week and getting the revenge on them. They beat them 20-13. Lamar Jackson and that offense was special, but what even made that game even more impressive for the Ravens was their defense. Their defense played very great and even forced interception late in the game. They shut down Derrick Henry, who, by the way, rushed for over 2,000 yards, and not many teams stopped them, including the Ravens the first time they played them earlier in the season. Well, the Ravens were able to shut down Derrick Henry. If they can shut down guys like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, then it's going to be hard for the Bills to win. However, it's very hard to stop those players, and I'm assuming that not much teams, even the Ravens, how good their defense is, can't stop them. We'll see what happens. Ravens versus Bills. Also, the battle of the 2018 draft pick quarterbacks. That draft had 5 quarterbacks selected in the first round, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are clearly the 2 best, even though Baker Mayfield is in the playoffs as well. Who is the better quarterback? We'll see. Ravens versus Bills, the battle of the 2 first-round quarterbacks in 2018. Next game, we have the Chiefs versus Browns. The Browns are heavy underdogs. I believe right now their Chiefs are 10-point favorites and the only double-digit favorites in the divisional round this year. Well, they've been playing with fire as of the last few weeks, but they didn't play last week. And 2 weeks ago, they didn't play any of their starters in a loss versus the Chargers. Can Patrick Mahomes soar past the Browns again and go closer to another Super Bowl? Or will the Browns, led by Baker Mayfield, that attack explosive running game led by Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? By the way, the Browns defense is a little better than most people are giving, even though they did let up 37 points to the Steelers despite blowing them out. We'll see what happens. The Chiefs and Browns can be a great game. Jarvis Landry for the Cleveland Browns, he's ready to go. Baker Mayfield hopes to get another win and continue being undefeated in his playoff career. We'll see what happens. Chiefs versus Browns. And last but not least, the Saints versus Bucks. The two old veteran quarterbacks are battling each other for the third time this season. The Saints beat the Buccaneers in the regular season twice. But can the Buccaneers finally get revenge on them? And will they win when this matters most? They have to go to New Orleans, but not that many fans are there. I believe only family and close friends are permitted inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Saints versus Buccaneers, it's going to be a great one. It's going to be a classic because I think whoever wins has a very good chance of making the Super Bowl and upsetting the Packers or the Rams in the NFC Championship game. I can't wait for this one to happen because we don't usually get to see Drew Brees versus Tom Brady in the playoffs. In fact, this is actually the first time that's actually happened because they were in NFC and AFC, and the Saints and Patriots never played each other in the Super Bowl. Going to be a great one. Saints versus Buccaneers. Can Michael Thomas be effective? Can Mike Evans play well? Can Antonio Brown continue his streak of playing well with Tom Brady and finally getting to know the Buccaneers offense? We shall see. That, by the way, game is on NBC or on Fox, the very last game of divisional playoffs before we head to NFC and AFC Championship weekend. Breaking news. The Brooklyn Nets have traded for James Harden to pair it with KD and Kyrie Irving. Brooklyn has traded a plethora of first-round picks and Karis LeVert along with Jarrett Allen. The whole deal is a 4-team trade that also involves Cleveland and Indiana. The Nets receive James Harden. The Rockets receive the Nets' 3 first unprotected picks in 2022, 2024, and 2026. They also get pick swaps in 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2026. Houston receives Cleveland first-round pick in 2022 that at one time belonged to the Bucks. Houston will trade a second-round pick to the Pacers as part of the deal. Victor Oladipo is headed to Houston along with Karis LeVert. The Cavs will acquire Dante Exum, Jarrett Allen, and another player. It's a big deal that has sent the basketball world upside down. And the first question I want to ask, who wins this trade? Well, if James Harden can coexist with KD and Kyrie, and Steve Nash can handle all of them, which is a very hard task, I say Brooklyn wins the trade. However, and if they get to the NBA Finals. If they don't get to the NBA Finals this year, I could say that's a bust already. And as we all know, Charles Barkley famously said, Kevin Durant went from the Splash Bros to the Dribble Bros. That's kind of funny, I think. But anyways, yes, it's Brooklyn needs to at least make the finals, and they need to be able to coexist, and there can't be any off-the-court discussions or even on the court if they're fighting and they're arguing of who gets the ball or whatnot. They can't do anything of that. They need to get to work, coexist with each other, get along with head coach Steve Nash, and get to the finals. Then they won the trade. If not, Houston wins this trade easily. Why was Harden so pissed at the Rockets? Well, I think he was pissed because he for the first time heard no from the Rockets. I think that was pretty much the answer. I mean, when he got to Houston, he wanted Dwight Howard. Then Dwight Howard left. Then he wanted Chris Paul. Then Chris Paul left. Then he wanted Russell Westbrook. Then he didn't want Russell Westbrook, and Russell Westbrook finally left. And then eventually he said, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go somewhere else. And the Rockets were like, well, we can't get anything else from you as of now, so we're just going to keep you in Houston, and we're going to hope you are satisfied. Well, that made him so mad because, again, he's not used to hearing no from the Rockets. And he said, you know what? I don't like this place. I want to go. And I think the Rockets made the smart decision, but at the end of the day, they really had their hands tied because James Harden just wasn't going to cooperate. No one else besides Brooklyn was going to make that trade because I feel like he wouldn't have wanted to go anywhere else besides Brooklyn. Maybe Philly, but the Rockets owner Hillman Fertitta didn't want to trade him to his old employee worked because, as we all know, Daryl Morey is the GM and president of basketball operations in Philly. So I think if he didn't go those two places, he would have been mad and he wouldn't play for the team. So the teams didn't want to waste a pick. The other question is, will James Harden coexist with KD and Kyrie? I think he can. It's just the problem. I think he can coexist with KD because he's been his teammate before in OKC. But the problem is, the big mystery is Kyrie Irving. As we all know, Kyrie Irving has been distanced. He hasn't played with the Nets since January 5th. Now, there are reports that he could play tomorrow night versus the Orlando Magic, which would be huge. But he also got fined over $800,000 by the league and will miss 2 game checks because he just said, oh, I'm gone. And he didn't tell any of his coaches. Only the players really know that he has a relationship with. So, as we all know, I think James Harden can coexist with KD, but Kyrie Irving is the big mystery right now. And a lot of people, including Stephen A. Smith, believes he should just retire because his focus isn't on basketball. I don't know if he should retire, but I definitely think he should get his priorities straight. And I feel like he's fine if he does other things around outside of basketball. But when it's time to play the sport he's supposed to be playing, he shouldn't be going out there and doing what he's doing. So I feel like James Harden needs to be able to get along with Kyrie Irving for them to succeed. But I do think he can coexist with Kevin Durant. How does Steve Nash handle all these characters? Well, it's crazy because this is Steve Nash's first head coaching job. Now, I think he was an assistant with the Warriors for a few years, but this is really his first job. Now, he's got 2 really good assistants in Mike D'Antoni and Jack Vaughn, but if he can handle all of them, I would say give him a Hall of Fame for the NBA coaches. I know he's going to be a Hall of Fame for players, one of the greatest point guards in his generation, probably one of the greatest point guards of all time. But if he can handle all of them, which I'm not sure he can, then I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as a coach as well. It's really a good question because I don't know if he can handle all of them. I think he can handle Kevin Durant. He can handle James Harden, but I'm just not sure if he can handle Kyrie Irving. But we'll see. To be honest with you, I don't know, and I'm not sure he even knows right now. Is Brooklyn the team to beat now in the East? Well, I think they should be the team to beat in the whole league entirely. I know there's the Lakers. I know there's the Clippers. I know the Warriors have been hot as well. The Bucks, of course, with Giannis. But I think Brooklyn should be one of those teams because of what they have now. They have 3 really good players. All of those guys, well, I would say James Harden and Kevin Durant are clearly top 5, top 10. Kyrie Irving's top 15. But when you have 3 really good players, you should be in the conversation. So, yes, I would say they're the team to beat in the East right now. How far do the Nets go in the postseason this year? Well, they should go to the finals. I mean, that's the big thing. They should go to the finals. They should be able to beat the Bucks in 5 or 6 games. I think the Nets will get to the finals, but they'll probably end up getting beat to either Clippers or Lakers in the NBA finals totally. But I do think the Nets are going to likely play in the finals and have the talent to win a championship. So I think they can go to the finals this season. The Jacksonville Jaguars have made some news in the football world. They have hired former Florida and Ohio State head football coach Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is the 3rd best winning percentage in all of college football. His record is 187-32. Meyer first started head coaching at Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, and then he finished in Ohio State. He was there until 2018, where he retired a second time, the first time he retired after the 2010 season with Florida. He won 3 national championships in 2006, 2008, and 2014. After retiring at Ohio State, he was working for Fox College Game Day for doing pre-games. The 3-time college football coach champion will have a tough job ahead of him as he takes over a struggling franchise in the Jaguars. First question is this the right hire for the Jags? Absolutely. I didn't see this coming. I thought Jacksonville was going to hire a coordinator in the NFL or a former head coach who coached in pro football, but obviously I was wrong. But wherever Urban Meyer has been coaching, he has turned to gold. I mean, if you go back to Bowling Green, they were good. Utah, they were good. That's where people discovered Alex Smith. He was eventually the number 1 overall pick and had a pretty nice career in the NFL. Florida, of course, he won 2 national championships, recruited Tim Tebow. A lot of people consider him the greatest college football player of all time. I don't, but I think Tim Tebow was great. But that was a great recruit. And then he won a championship at Ohio State by beating Alabama to get into the national title, and then he smacked down Oregon. So I think Urban Meyer is an excellent coach. He's got the 3rd best winning coach in college, or winning percentage in college football. That's unbelievable. So I absolutely think this is a great hire for Jacksonville. It's just going to be tough because I feel like Shad Khan still has roster control. And I'm not sure Urban Meyer is going to like that. And maybe that will change. But Urban Meyer and, of course, a lot of college coaches that have made the leap to the NFL haven't had success. However, Pete Carroll, one of the outliers, ended up winning a Super Bowl with Seattle. He did very well in the NFL, but most people that go from college to the NFL don't do well, including Nick Saban, who's probably the greatest college football coach of all time. How successful will Meyer be in the NFL? I think he can do well. He just needs to find his quarterback, which I think it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, which I don't know now that Justin Fields is available, and he coached Justin Fields at one time. But anyways, I think he'll be successful. I don't think they'll make the playoffs in his first year. I think they'll probably go 7-9 or 8-8, maybe 6-10. But I could definitely see him making the playoffs in his second year. It just could be, it depends on who he picks up, who he drafts, and how much roster control he has. Will Jacksonville make the postseason this year? I don't think so. They were 1-15 last year. They were the worst team in the league, one of the worst teams in the league ever. So I don't think they make the playoffs. If they win 4 or 5 games, I think that's a celebration. I'm assuming they're going to win about 7 or 8, which is going to be awesome. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because the AFC South is very tough. We know the AFC South is not the NFC East, so I do think they'll have they'll have a 7 or 8 win season. I just don't think they'll make the postseason, at least in the first year. I think they do in the second year. Why did Meyer take the job? Well, I mean, I think it was 12. I think it's $12 million a year, which I think that really sparked his interest. I mean, if you offer someone $12 million a year to coach, I think that's going to definitely they're definitely going to give it some thought. I think he's had success almost everywhere, and I think he wants to prove that he can do it in the NFL as well. And I mean, he's 56 years old. He's still got some years ahead of him. I just think he wants to prove that he can do well in Jacksonville. I mean, $12 million a year is solid. And of course, he knows Florida. I mean, almost everybody in Florida loves him unless you're a Florida State fan. So I do think he took the job just because he wanted to have success in the NFL, and it's in Florida. Does Urban Meyer draft Trevor Lawrence or his former quarterback, Justin Fields? I think he's going to draft Trevor Lawrence. At the end of the day, Lawrence is just the better prospect, even though Justin Fields is a great one as well. I just think Trevor Lawrence at the end of the day is better, and I think you can't really. I mean, it comes down to talent. Trevor Lawrence probably has the most talent we've ever seen anybody become out of college football since probably John Elway. So I think just Trevor Lawrence is the better quarterback overall. So I think he'll draft him, even though I think you'll see a few Ohio State players select because the Jaguars do have a lot of draft picks. Will a lot of players want to go to Jacksonville now that Urban Meyer is the head coach? Only time will really tell. Urban Meyer is a great recruiter, and he's a great persuader, but I'm just not sure players want to go to Jacksonville as of now. I think they need to start winning a few games for people to come. I think in his second year, Urban Meyer's second year, or at least next year in free agency in 2022, I think people will say, oh, Jacksonville won 7 games last year. Urban Meyer's a very good coach. Let's go down there. And of course, Jacksonville, the weather usually is pretty nice. There's no sales tax. I mean, it's pretty relaxed down there. So I feel like after his first year and going on to his second year, players will want to or be more tempted to join him in with the Jaguars. And last but not least, does Shad Khan still have roster control? I think that's kind of the big question right now. I don't know if anybody really knows, including Shad Khan. He said he was going to have roster control, and then he hires Urban Meyer, who we all know likes to have control of his teams, that if you go back to Florida and Ohio State. So I'm going to assume he doesn't, just because if he hired Urban Meyer, I don't think Urban Meyer would have taken it if he couldn't have control of the team. Maybe Shad Khan and Urban Meyer split the decisions, but I feel like Shad Khan won't have full control over the team because I don't think Urban Meyer would have taken it if he didn't have any type of control. So I think they both kind of share it. Thanks for listening to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and much more. We release new episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Sports Town Podcast. If you want to check out more videos of the Sports Town Podcast, click on the left. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on the right.